What's going on, everybody? RJ Ochoa here from SB Nation's bloggingtheboys.com. Hope all is well wherever you are. Hope you're happy, safe, healthy, and that you are still just as excited about the 2025 Dallas Cowboys draft class as you were when it was initially assembled. We've been doing a lot of inspecting, a lot of understanding, kind of getting to know these players on a deeper level. Obviously, throughout the draft process, we have names that we like and names that we understand very deeply. But when it comes to the Cowboys ultimately finally having that draft class, we can really sink our teeth into them and get to know who they are, how they can help this team, et cetera, et cetera. And something that I'm trying to do, just to kind of give you a heads up, this is on our YouTube channel, obviously. Make sure you subscribe to the Blog and the Boys YouTube channel, is understand these players from the perspective of the people who know them best. And to do that, we're talking to people who coach them or know them. Obviously, you saw the video with Kyle that we did talking about Tyler Booker's time at IMG Academy, and I'll be working on some of these in the coming weeks, and we'll be releasing them. But today you have a video with University of Florida executive head coach and defensive coordinator Ron Roberts, who obviously coached Dallas Cowboys fifth-round pick Shemar James in Gainesville. It was a really fun conversation and a really great way to understand who Shemar is. We can read all of the, draft analyst breakdowns and profiles and understand what they are physically and how they can potentially fit into what the Cowboys are doing from a football perspective. But we can also understand that from the people who have already utilized them, people who have already benefited from their athletic prowess and benefited from who they are as people. And so that's why, like I said, this is something I try to do every year. It doesn't always work out, and sometimes there are hurdles. This is a time of year where college football is, on the recruiting trail, and so because of that, Coach Roberts was not able to do a video interview. This is a phone interview, but was a little bit creative with it to try to make it happen. I know we've thrown those up in the past with just the audio, so try to do it a little bit differently. I hope it's something that you enjoy. And without further ado, let's go ahead and get to it. Here is Coach Ron Roberts talking all things Shemar James.
Very pleased now to be joined here at Blogging the Boys by the one and only, the dashing, the debonair. You know him from Gainesville and from really all over. I'm excited to ask him about his time in Waco and wonder if he had a meal or two at George's. It is executive head coach and defensive coordinator Ron Roberts. Coach, thanks so much for taking the time to join us.
Oh, thanks for having me on.
Have you had a meal at George's? Have some of those, I think they're called Gator Bites, which is appropriate for you these days.
Yeah, yes, I actually had many meals at George's. Yeah, great place. Good
That's
place.
what.
Everybody go through, travel through and stop.
Yeah, I mean, all my days traveling across the state of Texas, if you're not stopping at George's, you're not living life the right way. You've had several stops throughout your coaching career, and as I mentioned, you're in Gainesville these days, and obviously coached one of the newest Dallas Cowboys in Shemar James, and we would love just to kind of get some perspective from you on the kind of player, the kind of human, the kind of person he
Yep.
is. We're all ears.
Yeah, yeah. Obviously, I mean, you're getting a first class human being when you get Shamar. He has all the intangibles you want as a football coach. You want, or is it, any member of any organization. Him coming in, just how he carries himself on a daily basis. He's a heck of an ambassador for any organization. Great human being, very intelligent, great personality. People in the room will flock to him. So he will have a captivating personality, those type of things. He'll be great for the community, and like he's a heck of a football player. Many times here he's referred to as the eraser because that's what he did on the field. But he has a lot of the intangibles, everything you're looking for. I think his best ball is ahead of him.
That's interesting. And obviously his story in 2023 is well documented and well understood. And last season, you all had this incredible second half of the year. I mean, maybe you
Yep.
would define that a little bit differently. And I'm curious
Yep.
because I don't know how, you're on the road, you're doing all sorts of things preparing for the upcoming season. So I don't know how well you followed each and every NFL team's draft class, but the Cowboys in particular this year seem to have prioritized leadership, team captains, quite literally so in Shamar's case. And so I'm curious what kind of examples of that you can kind of see. And it's a different thing, obviously, to jump from, playing at the collegiate level to, being in the NFL and paying your dues and being a rookie and things like that. But it seems
Yeah.
the Cowboys are really gravitating towards those qualities, and it seems like Shamar embodies them specifically.
Yes. Again, here, I talk about on the field being that example too as well. Again, just like how he practices on a day-to-day basis. You know what I mean? He's gonna, he's the high effort guy. He's the guy that's gonna focus on every drill, anything you do. He's taking every rep seriously. He's gonna attack every down like it is a critical situation. You're gonna get the best out of him. His focus, his attention to detail, all those types of things on the field, and then obviously his ability. Obviously to relate, and he's intelligent. So again, many times on the field for us, he's making checks, he's communicating, he's helping other guys get in the right situation, right alignments, right coverage, and then his ability obviously to teach and help other guys along because he has a high football.
That's interesting. Now, from a football perspective, what's the this is kind of a strange question, I recognize, but what's the situation you trust him the most in? If you can outline that for us. Like, I don't know if it's 3rd and 6, if it's, even third in short. I mean, what is
Yeah.
you called him the eraser. Like, what is the moment where you're like, oh, this is his pitch. I really trust him to hit this one.
Well, obviously there's certain things as a football player he's really good at, and the big thing probably that stands out is going to be his first thing up, on tape and things they're going to say is that his athleticism.
Mm-hmm.
So, if we, like a lot of times it was based, we were trying to get him on third downs, and pass rush situations. We tried to get him in a one-on-one on the running backs because he was going to win. He's going to get the ball out now, or he's going to, hit the quarter. He's going to hit the quarter, pressure the quarterback, sack, whatever he's going to do. But he's going to win in those one-on-one situations, especially on that. But he's really good in coverage. So his athleticism, all those parts are going to come off to the top pretty easily, I think, and translate to the NFL. But like I say, in the clutch is just like he's gonna do his job. He's gonna be where he's supposed to be. He's a blessing to coach because he's one of those guys again you can trust, you can count on, and that's really what this game is really about. You know what I mean? You got to find 11 guys out there that you can trust that are gonna execute and do the things you're asking to do. And then I talk about being the racers that. He's a guy that does his job, and then he continues to play and has a knack then to find the football and get people down when it's not his job.
Yeah, no, I mean, those things sound simple in cliche, but they're extraordinarily difficult. To your
Yeah,
point, in a single player, let alone finding 11 that can do them in perfect harmony.
yeah, yeah,
I would imagine that throughout the draft process, it's probably humorous on some level when you see draft analysts or whoever compare your players that you've coached to different people.
yeah.
Maybe you find them to be apt comparisons. Maybe you find them to be silly. Again, I'm sure over the course of your career, it's happened all over the spectrum. The popular name, I don't know if you've seen when it comes to Shemar, is Patrick Queen. Obviously, has had a stellar NFL career and an incredible collegiate one. But is there a name that, whether it's modern day or historically, that you just have always kind of seen when Shemar has played relative to maybe it was or wasn't somebody that you coached personally?
Um, no, there's nobody off the top of my head or somebody I've visually seen and compared that I've done that. So, off the top of the head, there's nobody really that jumps off the top of my head on that stuff. I would think in the terms of any of the athletic will linebackers, in the NFL that had success, that he can play in space, he can rush the quarterback, and he can win one-on-ones. So I know nobody really jumps off the top of my head. There's guys that I compare that I think have played well and success, but when I think physically, I think well he's got better hips than those guys. He's more athletic than those guys. So I'm like, wait a minute, I don't know if I actually had one exactly like him in the NFL. Most of the guys I probably had maybe a little bigger, right, but probably not as smooth with his change of direction and ability to move in space.
You sounded disappointed to not have a comparison, but honestly, I think the Cowboys fans enjoy that. You know what I mean? I think that they're excited, to hear like, oh, awesome, because you know
Yeah,
how it goes.
yeah,
Like you can find it. It sounds silly, but you can find a flaw in Patrick Queen. You know what I mean? Like as opposed to
yes,
there is something
yeah,
to we've never. I don't mean to be hyperbolic, but we've never seen this before. It's a more unique package, and to your point and everything you've described and everything that's been made available about Shamar so far is that he's not, again, I'm not trying to overhype him in any way, but he's not
yeah.
comparable to anybody in one specific fashion.
No, I wouldn't say that. Yeah, yeah. That's why I was trying to find a person that I think is comparable, and I can't really think of one. because he is reliable, he is consistent. He is a guy that's going to get his job done. I think, obviously the things though too is that, his best ball's ahead of him. He came out early, and
Right.
he didn't play. And he didn't play as a sophomore.
Yeah.
Missed the season as a sophomore. Came out early. They got him for a bargain. You know what I mean? It's good for the Dallas Cowboys organization, and they got him at a discount.
Well,
Where they got him.
it's funny you say that, and this is my penultimate question. He was the lone player who the Cowboys traded up to draft. Obviously, he was still in the fifth round, but they didn't want to wait. You know what I mean? There was a level of I don't want to call it
Right.
panic, but a level of, okay, no, we can't chance this. We have
Yeah.
to go up and get him. And I
Right.
feel like that has to be represented. There has to be. You've done an incredible job, and we thank you for describing the qualities that Shemar has. But there has to be something about him that you all obviously felt, and that the Cowboys clearly feel like we can't live without this. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. I think he's a guy. He's a starter in the NFL. Well, it's hard for any rookie to come in and do those
Right.
type of things. But he is a guy that can be a starter in the NFL and be an every down guy and play for a while.
My last one is, I know this is kind of a Cowboy specific question, but I'm sure that throughout the course of your career, you've seen this in different levels. It is not easy to play for the Dallas Cowboys in a lot of ways, just because of the stage that comes with it and the magnitude and the attention. Obviously, there are a lot of pros to that, but clearly cons. There is something to Shamar's career, and that he's been able to handle all of the things, all of the trust that you talked about placing in him, the responsibilities that you talked about placing in him, being a captain. I mean, doing that at a premier, school is not an easy thing. And so, and especially as you've mentioned, and he's been talked about, obviously being so young, to be so young and to have this level of resolve and maturity and discipline, that might be the quality that this team doesn't want to live without. You know what I mean? Like, to carry that
Yeah.
mantle it's not an easy thing to be a captain for the Florida Gators and play. And y'all season last year, you had this incredible, second half and surge, but to dig in like that, I feel like he has to have some really special stuff inside of him.
He does. He does. He's got all that. I think, like I said, I started off with it. He's got all the intangibles you're looking for. And that's really, honestly, I mean, we get sometimes coaches and whatever fans, I guess, so you get enamored with physical tools. And he's got all the physical tools. But the indicator of people's success in the NFL or at this level is their maturity level, and they stay humble. And because they stay humble, they stay hungry to continuously improve. And that's Shemar. And he's handled the limelight and the flash and all that stuff because he was a marquee player here.
Right.
And it's not going to be at the same what's going to get Dallas Cowboys. I get that. That's not the same level of notoriety, things that he's going to go through. But he's a humble person, so he's going to handle it really well. And I think he'll stay very focused on what the task at hand is, and he'll continuously get better.
That's awesome. As we go, do you have any fun stories about him? Maybe a time, a fun prank, or time you made you laugh, or just something that wouldn't show up in the scouting report. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, I don't know. There's a ton. There's a lot of laughter. Like I said, he's a great person to be around. Love being around him. So I can't think of a story that wouldn't embarrass him too much. I don't want to do that to him. But yeah, a lot of laughter. Just a great person to be around on a day-to-day basis.
That's great to hear, and we'll be on the hunt for those embarrassing stories because those are the best ones, obviously. Coach Roberts, players to watch as we keep our eyes on the Gators this year. We're just coming off the draft, but names that we'll be bookmarking to pay attention to relative to 2026. Obviously, like we've talked about, the second half of y'all season last year was really incredible, and there's a lot of talk about the Gators this year, and so. Would love to just hear players that you want, to kind of highlight. And I know you're out on the road and there's a lot of things going on, but any kind of hype you can have for Florida season this year.
Yeah, we got a lot of high expectations. Again, we're getting older. Ben was fairly young last year. Returned most defensive players back. And there's some players that, again, coming out this next year. Devin Moore, corners, he'll be a marquee guy. He's got a chance really to have a great season, and he does that. He's going to put himself in a great situation on draft day. And up front, we're most of them underclassmen. We've got a couple seniors, up there. But again, there's probably a lot of them. I think most of our players are still in that sophomore, junior category. I'm not sure who's going to come out early, but we really don't like. We're coming this year. We've got one senior D lineman, and Tariq Sapp, who is a high motor guy that is an NFL player. And same type of measurables as far as you're talking about. I mean, he's talking about his character and stuff off the field. Um, and then most of our players are still just, I don't know who would come out early. Um, Hopefully none of them in my league. But yeah,
Well, that's
yeah.
awesome. Thank you for the insight, coach, and we'll be rooting on the Gators this coming season. I'm sure everybody's talking about you want to go. If basketball teams win a national championship, that's a good sign for football historically. And so we'll be keeping eyes on what's happening at the Swamp.
Okay, awesome. Thank you guys. Appreciate it.